Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Well, hello, Aki.
And hello, Stevie. Welcome, you, to our show.
Welcome to our show. Welcome, one and all.
Welcome to our show. We like to welcome each other.
I don't know why I'm doing British mode. I'm already British.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, why are you extra British?
Because you're extra British, so I feel like I need to extra British.
I can only extra British. I don't have normal British.
Can you make this podcast extra British, please?
I'd like one podcast, please, extra British. No problem.
With a side of American.
With a side of American coffee.
Not tea, Earl Grey.
No.
We're going Janeway today.
That's right. Janeway, drinking my coffee, letting my hair down. Welcome to our show. It's called Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. Today's stardate
is 039622.1.
and we're discussing Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 1. It's sad. We're in the home stretch here.
Yeah, we are. What was this one entitled? I forgot.
It was entitled Crisis Point.
Crisis Point.
Crisis Point. But you could be forgiven for forgetting that that's the name because there's so many crazy things that happen in this episode that, like, you would think it would be called, like, Vindicta or something, or Vindicta Rises or something, but whatever. It's called Crisis Point.
Or the therapist chair.
The therapist chair. Yeah, anyway, a very enjoyable episode setting up these last two are like a nice, they ramp up to a big finish.
They do.
So without further ado, let's run it down. It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? Tell me what just happened. Can you run it down for me?
Okay, it goes like this. Mariner's down on a world. She has liberated the, quote, lizard men. She says they will no longer suffer from rat oppression. And there's anthropomorphic lizard people and one anthropomorphic rat man in luxurious robes, and he's imprisoned, and Mariner's like, you're free now, and the lizard people are like, we don't know what to do, we just like basking. She's like, then bask without worrying about rat oppression, and when my captain gets here, she's going to be so happy that I liberated you people. And then Captain Freeman shows up and is actually very upset with Mariner because apparently they were not supposed to interfere with this planet because of the Prime Directive. And so they begin to argue and bicker bitterly. And instead of sending Mariner to the brig, which is where she thinks she's going to go for her insubordination, Captain Freeman, who is also Mariner's mom, says, no, you're going to go to therapy. And Mariner says, no, it's the 80s. We don't need to go to therapy. Her mother's like, you're going to therapy. You're going to do it every day with Dr. Miglimo. I really should have checked the pronunciation on that. I think it might be Miglimo or Miglimo. Not sure. I wrote it down. Anyway, apparently he uses nonstop food metaphors, and he does. And so Mariner gets sent to the ship, and then the captain says she'll give the rat people replicators if they'll stop eating the lizard people. And that is the cold open. So when the episode begins, in truth, Mariner's in therapy, and her doctor, Dr. Miglimo, says she's got a veritable...
Who is played by Paul F. Tompkins.
None other than Paul F. Tompkins. So it's the two hosts of the Pod Directive.
Indeed.
In a scene together. Paul F. Tompkins and Tawny Newsome tells Mariner that she has a veritable fruit salad of insubordination. And Mariner would rather be in the brig, but too bad. She's going to have to go do therapy every day and talk about her issues with her mother. Later on, Mariner, Rutherford, and Tendi are shooting clay discs, I guess, in the holodeck with Leonardo da Vinci. Boimler enters and he says he needs to use the holodeck because he's got to study in order to ace this interview to be part of Captain Freeman's advanced diplomacy workshop. And Boimler has a program where he, perhaps in a grayness of morality, has used people's private logs in aggregate to create versions of themselves that are true to form on the holodeck, as we've seen before in other treks. And so he launches Boimler 7. They're on the bridge. It's a simulation of everyone on the Cerritos. And Boimler thinks this will give him an edge in the interview because he can then talk to the captain to find out what she likes, what she doesn't like, how best to impress her for this position. And Mariner, once she sees how realistic the reactions are, she becomes very interested in the program, runs over to the Arch, and begins to change all of the parameters, basically turning it into a Star Trek epic-style movie using Boimler's program, and thus begins the true breadth of the episode Crisis Point. So they're arguing. There's this great sequence with the music and the names of everyone. She made like a full pre-movie sequence with the names coming in blue, just like they do in all the Trek films. Then the camera pans down to body of water, and Freeman and the senior staff are jet skiing because it's Captain Freeman's birthday, and Boimler's still there, and he's trying to ask the captain things about what she likes and what she doesn't like. But then they get a message, and Captain says vacation's over. So all the takes from here on out are extremely dramatic, as if we were watching one of the Trek films. I think this is sort of a send up of maybe Khan, sort of has a Khan vibe to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Wrath of Khan. The senior staff, they all go to an admiral. The admiral tells them that they've gotten a strange message from Idacana 6, and the president there wanted to thank them for the second contact by the USS San Clemente. And they're like, why is that a big deal? And the admiral says, because Starfleet has no San Clemente. So who was it? Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Woo! Got a dun, dun, dun in there.
We got a dun, dun, dun there. And the admiral dispatches Freeman and the crew to the Cerritos to find out what it is, get info and get out. And he says, and Freeman, stick to the plan this time. So there's this one is so full of Easter eggs, I don't even know if I can talk about the episode without mentioning all the Easter eggs.
You can try.
I'm going to do my best. Where they go from the shuttle to the ship and you get to see the ship and they play the music of the theme song.
Yeah.
And
that was I wouldn't even call that an Easter egg. It was too big. It was just Easter.
Yeah, it's true. It was just Easter. It went on way too long. It was like a totally revamped, super intense version of the theme of the show. And you see the ship from a billion angles. They talk about her like she's a woman.
It's like light
Boimler
flares.
says he wants to squeeze her. Oh, there's all these, lens flares and stuff. Oh, da, 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 da. I wrote in my notes, did they use a real orchestra? And they did, I'm sure. So they head out. They get out of space dock. There is the obligatory scene of the captain sitting in the chair and being like, I'm ready for this adventure. And they say, we're ready to go, Captain. And Captain Freeman says, time to take this puppy off its leash. Warp me.
I loved that. Warp me.
That was great. Warp me. Warp me.
I mean, there's a good reason that has not been used before.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because it's terrible.
All right, Ensign, warp me.
It just sounds like a weird sex act, doesn't it?
It does. Okay, all right. Family show.
Sorry, I took it smutty.
Okay, so we get to Idacana 6. I might have said that incorrectly because I'm past that point in my notes. Apparently, the selenium rings are disrupting the sensors. An alien vessel decloaks. Who is it? It's none other than, it's like a very ominous a vessel. And who is it? It's Mariner, but she's not Mariner. She says her name is Vindicta, and she calls Captain Freeman Captain Freeman. And she has her 3 henchmen of the Vinpocalypse. Tendi, her savage warrior queen, and Orion, born from a lineage of Orion pirates. And Rutherford is Bionic 5, a heartless robot killing machine. And there's Shempo, who apparently was supposed to be Boimler, but because Boimler's hanging out with Captain Freeman because he's still trying to brown nose and figure out what he can do to ace his interview, they have Shempo. They do the whole thing where the 2 captains talk and Vindicta's like, ha ha ha, Freeman, I will bathe in your blood.
Freeman!
Freeman! She calls Freeman a coward. She quotes The Tempest. And at one point, she asks Shempo for tea, and Shempo comes back and it's coffee. And so she shoots and kills Shempo immediately. And then there's a big quoting of The Tempest, which is definitely a big con thing. And then it's a distraction. The recording was a distraction because they've used the shuttle then to board the ship, and they start just fighting the crew and killing people and everything. And this is all holodeck, but they're brutally murdering everyone. Ransom gets hit, and Boimler runs up to him and tries to find out the captain's favorite cookies recipe for cookies. And Ransom says, okay, yeah, make her cookies, but remember that she's allergic to, and then gets shot again and he dies. Boimler's upset. Rutherford is like, oh, we can say anything we want to anybody. We can kill people. He's like, I'm going to go to my boss, Billups, and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. So he runs off. Tendi and Mariner continue to fight the crew. When Ransom finds Billups, when Rutherford finds Billups, he's dressed as like a space marauding bionic killer. And he's like, hey, Billups. He like scares everyone, and everyone runs out of engineering, and Billups like closes the doors, and things are all ruptured because Rutherford shot up the place. And he goes, you may think you're the best engineer in Starfleet, and I've waited a long time to tell you this. You are the best engineer in Starfleet. Hooray! And then he helps Billups fix engineering so that the ship doesn't explode. Tendi and Mariner go on a killing spree. They go to the bar, which I always want to call 10 forward. It's basically 10 forward, but I don't know if there's a 10 forward on the Cerritos. But they kill a bunch of people there, including Shax, who they use like an explosive Borg head. They put a bomb in a Borg's head and throw it at Shax, and he catches it. It explodes. It kills everyone. But then Tendi gets upset because she's like, Mariner, it's getting really creepy because Mariner's like really overjoyed and killing everyone. She's wearing very intense makeup, and she doesn't like being called an Orion pirate, and Mariner's too into it. She tells Mariner it's not healthy, and then she leaves through an arch. She's like, this is not good.
Yeah, I think the straw that broke the camel's back for Tendi was when Mariner gave her Shax's earring with a piece of his ear still attached to it.
Oh,
this is really gross.
Yeah. You gotta wear it. Orions are pirates. They love this kind of stuff. So Vindicta / Mariner gets to the bridge. She kills most of the remaining bridge crew. They begin to fight, mother and daughter, but they're also having a mother and daughter argument. Mariner's like, why do you make me the bad guy all the time? She sends the warp core critical by her own warp core critical, which damages the Cerrito so badly that it starts to fall towards the planet, plummets into the planet, hits a bunch of mountains and snow, another trope. The nacelles snap off. The saucer rolls into snowy mountains. I wrote in my notes, this is literally Discovery season 3, episode 2. The ship is crashed. Freeman wakes up. She's pressed up against the thing, and she's like, I gotta save the crew. But Victa's there, and she's like, oh, no, you're not just gonna save the crew. I'm not done with you. They're gonna continue to fight. Rutherford and Billups. Rutherford had managed to save most of the crew using some sort of rapid transport that he says you can only use because it's a movie. He got everyone off the ship before it crashed, so they just need to get off the ship and they'll be safe. Freeman and Mariner, Freeman and Vindicta fight and fight and fight. There's all these Oedipal overtones, except it's mother and daughter, and they're killing each other. She's about to stab the cap. She like knocks Freeman down finally and rips the thing out of the thing, and she's about to stab her through with like this sharpened bit of like debris. And then just as that happens, she gets knocked off, and Mariner, the program Mariner, what heretofore we will call Other Mariner.
I was so wondering how you were going to do this.
Yes, Mariner and Other Mariner.
So meta.
Other Mariner says, "Get off my mom, you bitch," which is an Easter egg that's not even connected to Star Trek. And then she emergency transports Freeman off the ship, and then Mariner has to fight Other Mariner. So it's Mariner versus Other Mariner. They're fighting back and forth, and also
Hollow Mariner. Do you want to go with Hollow Mariner?
Hollow Mariner. Oh, Hollow
That's
Mariner. Okay, it's kind of sounds like us. It's something hard to say, so we'll go with it. Hollow Mariner. Mariner versus Hollow Mariner.
Sounds like Hello Mariner.
Hello, Mariner. Hello, Mariner.
Hello, Mariner.
So good to see you.
Going extra British again.
Hello, Mariner.
Yeah.
You wanted extra British. Right, that's right. We're giving people what they want. Basically, it comes out that Hollow Mariner is more self-aware than Mariner, and basically says that she only breaks the rules because people expect her to do that. That Mariner has only cast herself as the villain because she thinks people are making her the villain, but really it's in her own mind, and she should do the hard thing and be a great officer. And then Vindicta, Mariner, throws Other Mariner, Hollow Mariner, down a shaft. Meanwhile, back on the surface with the whole crew that's been transported off, Billups and Rutherford have a tender moment together, and Rutherford's greatest fantasy is answered. Billups was like, why don't we run off together and get our own ship, and then we can repair the warp core on our own time. And they're going to run away together, and Dr. Tiana sees this and says, Godspeed, you crazy bleeps. Who knows what that bleep was? Boimler is still trying to, he doesn't care about the story of the Vindicta at all. He tries to give chocolate cookies to Captain Freeman. It turns out that is what she's allergic to, chocolate. So Jet, another officer, says that Boimler is an assassin. He gets tackled, beaten up, and taken off to prison, and then thrown off a cliff. Mariner continues to fight Hollow Mariner, and then she's like, ha ha ha, she got the upper hand, and she's about to kill Hollow Mariner, and she says, you were just looking out for number one, and Hollow Mariner says, oh yeah? Then why did I delay you while I waited for the self-destruct and everyone to get off the ship? And then Mariner says, what? And then the ship, boom, blows up. And so Mariner feels that this was more therapeutic than therapy. She realizes that in real life, she cares about the ship and the crew. She just likes being, insubordinate. She's just got to do, Mariner just got to be Mariner. So in the end, Rutherford and Mariner chilling in the bar, and Tendi comes over and Mariner apologizes, and Tendi says, you know what, let's go look at the warp core, and they all go off together. They run into Captain Freeman, and Mariner apologizes to Captain Freeman and says, later, skater. And then Freeman goes to Dr. Miglimo, upset because she thinks that Mariner must be up to something because she couldn't have been so satisfied. Boimler goes back into the program in order to still try to kiss up to Freeman, and he sees Freeman, the program's still going. So Freeman's giving a eulogy to Hollow Mariner, who gave her life for the ship and crew, and in it she reveals that Mariner is her daughter, the Hollow Freeman and Hollow Mariner, but which is true in real life. Do you follow? If you don't, too bad. And then she says, if anybody knew before my daughter was dead, I would have kicked him off the ship or kicked him out of Starfleet altogether because I was so terrified of people knowing that. So now Boimler ends the program and he's terrified because now he knows. So he completely botches the interview because he's terrified the whole time. He says the Mariner is hot and then says that she's nasty and then runs out. And on the holodeck movie, we get meta of meta of meta, an Easter egg of the movie where Mariner, oh, Jesus. Hollow Mariner / no, wait, this is where it gets complicated. Hold on. Bear with me. I did a great job until now.
I'm not editing this out. I'm just going to leave it.
In the holodeck movie, now Vindicta, who was played by real Mariner, is part of the Hollow, and she comes out of an emergency capsule, and she's like, ah, ha, 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 I shall defeat them all, but then is shot by Da Vinci, who's been wandering around, I guess, since they were shooting clay plates earlier. And then we have some Supreme end credits. I do want to mention, that's the end of my rundown, but I really enjoyed that when they went into the movie, they added a movie filter, which is very sweet, like a film filter with lots of visual noise. And that endeth the rundown of episode 9, season 1, Star Trek Lower Decks, Crisis Point. Whew. Oh boy, we've got cornets, huh?
One tries, one's best.
That's weird that you hired a cornetist to stand behind you and you just point at him and he starts playing. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, musicians need work these days.
Yeah. Well, if you got money in the budget, I always appreciate live music, so it's good that
yeah.
Yeah. Shall we go on to Easter eggs? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aki Berbice. I'm here at the Easter egg desk, and I'm going straight now to Stevie Mance, who's on location at episode 9, season 1 of Star Trek Lower Decks. Stevie, tell us what you got.
Well, hello there, Aki. It's lovely to be here. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me. As you know, we had some
Transitioning to normal voice. As you know, there was some wonderful Easter eggs. As we said, the whole episode was almost an Easter egg, or just the event of Easter itself. In fact, do you remember, for 10 points, do you remember what the name of the species, the wolf-like species that appears at the beginning of this episode?
I absolutely do not. I wish that I did, but I don't.
They are, well, we believe that they are the Antikins. They are not actually referred to in this episode, but they look very, very similar to the Antikins who appeared in TNG Season 1, Episode 7. The episode title, I believe, was Lonely Among Us. So that was what was sort of a bit of a deep cut there.
Very much so.
Now, Da Vinci, you may remember from Voyager, Actually, it's weirdly enough, I watched this episode
Yes.
literally last week.
Really?
Yeah, it was really fun. Like, I think there must be one or two of them, but I actually really enjoy them because it's quite fun. You know, what, like Picard has his leisure time and he goes back in. Yeah, so I quite like it. Oh, that's right. And so this is actually kind of a deep cut because there was apparently a TNG movie that never got made that was due to be called TNG Renaissance. This is absolutely true.
Wow.
And the premise of the episode was that Data was going to go back in time to the Renaissance period, and he would have been Da Vinci's mentee, or protege, if you like.
That's crazy. Did not know that at all. That was going to be their, like TOS had the Journey Home nuclear vessels. Oh, man, that would have been great.
But that never happened. So that's a really, really deep cut, if you want to believe it. But if it's not just Janeway, then it's potentially also the TNG crew with the never-made movie. Fun, huh? Now, super deep cut. Mariner says to Boimler, "Oh, you're being kind of a Zon." Now, do you remember what that was about?
I actually do, but only because I'm a huge nerd that happens to know about this. But please, regale us.
So there was a Vulcan commander, Zon, who I think was meant to sort of be the next Spock, because at that point I think it was supposed to be like a never-made Star Trek series called Star Trek Phase 2, because at that point they weren't sure if Spock or Leonard Nimoy was going to return as Spock.
Wonderful.
And Zon was meant to be this sort of replacement character. And so it's a real deep cut of, like, you know, you would only know it if you knew all of the sort of...
if you knew about the people who didn't appear in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. All of the movies and the things that never actually happened. All of the backstories about Trek. So that I quite liked, just as a real deep cut there. And I did rather enjoy Paul F. Tompkins as the therapist. I thought he was quite good. But that wasn't really, it was kind of an Easter egg, but it's sort of an Easter egg because Paul F. Tompkins hosts the Star Trek pod, the next, what's it called?
The official, the pod directive.
The pod directive. Sorry, I was going to call it the next directive, because Paul F. Tompkins co-hosts the pod directive with Tawny Newsome, who plays Beckett Mariner.
Correct.
Well, there you go, Aki. That's all we have for Easter eggs today, right here on the set. Now it's back to you in the studio.
Fantastic. I feel it important to mention, for those of us who wish to carry it over, that there is one non-Star Trek Easter egg in this episode. It is from, I think, I should have Googled this, but I didn't. When Mariner, oh my God, I can't believe I did this to myself. I should have just shut up.
It says, "Get off my mom, you bitch. Bitch, get off my mom," or something?
Yes, get off my mom. Get away from my mom, you bitch. Get off my mom, you bitch. That is a reference to, I think it's Aliens,
yes,
the second Alien movie.
I read somewhere that was an Aliens thing.
Where Ripley gets into the machine after the aliens going after the little girl that they find, and she says, "Get away from her, you bitch," and then destroy. Anyway, that was really awesome. An angel got its wings that day that I heard that the first time, and the second time, and the third time. Shall we move on to quotable moments?
Absolutely. Quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
I think you already mentioned the veritable fruit salad of insubordination, which I loved.
I did. I considered writing down all the other ones, but that seemed ridiculous. But I loved that one, yes.
The only other one I had, other than warp me, was, "You're better at being the captain's dickwig."
Oh, that was truly something special.
It was just classic.
Yes.
Love a good insult.
You're better at being the captain's dickwig. You got to. I did enjoy Mariner to Other Mariner saying, "You only break rules because you know what that's what people expect you to do. They're not casting you as a villain. You are." And all the Mariner stuff as Vindicta. I should have written this part down. This was just a thing that I noticed that I liked. Well, I like anytime they have an alien who's like evil, who deliberately mispronounces or unintentionally mispronounces a character's name. So I like that she kept calling her mother Freeman, because obviously she was acting like that. And oh yes, here it is.
"I am Vindicta, vengeance personified. At last, Freeman, I will bathe in your blood."
I was just going to say, it reminded me of He-Man. or Skeletor and his henchmen.
It was very He-Man.
It's like, Freeman!
By the power of Gangle.
If you're an 80s baby, that absolutely made sense for you.
Exactly. 80s babies. Yes.
We'll do anything for you.
Anything for you. Should we do a segment called 80s Babies? Every episode. 80s Babies.
Well, we can add that to our other segment of, what was it I sent to you the other day?
Oh, the Shatner game. Yeah, the Shatner game.
Where we overact everything. Yeah, the Shatner game. Someone yells Shatner and you overact everything.
And I was like, we already do that. We do that from the beginning of the episode to the whole thing.
Yeah.
At least I do. The last thing, just as a deep cut for those who watch too much DS9 and know all about the Bajorans and the Cardassians and their religion, and Shax is Bajoran, of course, as he's a hot-blooded Bajoran. And right before he is killed by Vindicta, he screams to them, "When you get to hell, tell the pirates that Shax sent you. Special delivery straight from Bajor," which I really liked. And that's all I have. Perhaps we should go to next time.
Perhaps we should.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Okay, well, next time on Set Phasers, we will discuss the season finale of the first season of Lower Decks, a fantastic animated series of Star Trek. That episode is entitled No Small Parts, and it is epic in scope.
It is big parts. It's all of the big parts.
It's all huge, but it's still only like the 22 minutes. I'm so shocked rewatching it. I thought in my mind, I was like, oh, they did an hour-long conclusion, but they didn't. They just crammed it all in. They did it somehow. Yeah, so we'll be discussing that next week. We wanted to say thank you, a special thank you, did we not, to our patrons, those who follow us on Patreon. I know, we have it in the we'll talk about it later, but we do want to give a shout out to all of our patrons in Patreon. The question is, did we write down all the names of our patrons in Patreon?
I think I could do it. So our very special patrons.
Patreons.
We want to say a big thanks to our patrons, our very special patrons.
Yay!
Sky, Kyle,
Yay!
Kevin, Eric, and Christine. Thank you so much for being our patrons. We love you. We are approaching our first year. Can you believe, Aki?
I can't believe we have done this for a year.
Approaching our birthday. Oh my God.
Our birthday.
I know.
Set Phaser's birthday.
We should
Happy
celebrate. I think we're coming up on 50 episodes.
Cake?
Yeah, always cake. Cake and more cake. Ice cream cake.
Yeah, I think we should have cake. It might be possible for us to do that, but that's a spoiler for another time.
All right.
Well, to the rest of you, patron or no, thank you so much for joining us. And if you enjoy the program, you can catch it every Monday wherever you get podcasts, if you just happened upon it. And if you want to go back, we've done all the episodes of Star Trek Discovery and the first season of Picard. And we're going to keep doing episodes as long as we can, as long as it's Star Trek. We'll talk about it. That's another segment we'll apparently be doing. So please check out our podcasts. And if you can, rate and subscribe.
What will the name of that segment be?
It'll be called, As Long as it's Star Trek, we'll do what we can.
Is that the rock segment?
You can't not sing it. That's what it's called. It's tonal as well as
Sing everything. Yeah, the Sing Everything segment.
Yeah, we have to sing rock to each other. Oh, these are great segments.
Yeah. And if you want to follow us on the socials, we are at Set Phasers Podcast and at Set Phasers on all of the things.
Meme Game Strong.
Meme Game Strong.
And if you want to support us in our continuing mission to discover what Star Trek has in store for us, it's very hard to do that voice for so long. We could only be delighted. You could patronize us. We can take it by going to patreon.com/setphasers. Thank you in advance.
Well, let's just round this off. And I'm Stevie Mans.
And I'm Aki Bermise. This has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer and the program. Oh shit, I forgot to push the button. Computer and the program.
Such professionals.
Indeed.
We're so pro.